If it's Tuesday, that means the Apex Energy Cup Series racing from Slingshot Racing League. Welcome, everybody. I'm Ellis Thomas, joined in the booth tonight by Chris Smith. We're bringing you live racing action tonight in the Gen 4 Cup cars from Rockingham Speedway for the Sim Racing Tec 200. Rockingham Speedway, nicknamed The Rock, opened its gates in the Sandhills of North Carolina in October of 1965. Originally called the North Carolina Motor Speedway, the track got its start as a flat 1-mile oval. By 1969, the track was extensively reconfigured to a high-banked D-shaped oval, just over a mile to what it is now. Eventually be renamed the North Carolina Speedway, and one of the most memorable moments in the track's history was its final race, actually. The Subway 400 was the final race at the Rock in 2004. In that race, Matt Kenseth, a name you might recognize, held off then rookie Casey Kane on the last lap to win by 1/100th of a second. It was the closest finish, one of the closest finishes in NASCAR history. Over time, attendance unfortunately began to sag, and after losing one of its two races, it completely closed after the 2004 season. It's occasionally held some local racing since, but just last year, however, it seemed like NASCAR might never return, but Rockingham was granted development funds from the state of North Carolina. It's begun an expensive redevelopment project, which very well could lead to Cup racing returning in the next several years. Chris, L.G. DeWitt, the man who arguably saved the Speedway from financial ruin before it was even finished in 1964, did so with money from his peach-growing empire in South Carolina. The drivers tonight will arguably find this track and their cars anything but peachy. What can we expect to see drivers struggling with tonight for these 197 tough laps around the Rock?
Well, you said it. This is one of the toughest tracks on any circuit. It's a shame that this track went away from the real-life NASCAR Cup Series all those years ago. But I'm happy to see it here on the service and on iRacing, and the drivers in the Apex Energy Cup Series will have their hands full all night. As you mentioned, this is a long race, 197 laps tonight. Tire wear will be essential. Drivers will be searching different lines, finding different lines. Some people will be up top in 1 and 2, but then they'll be down low in 3 and 4. It's just what makes this track so great. With that extra tire wear comes an extra set of tires in the pits and a fuel window of about 65 to 70 laps. On top of that, we have a championship battle on our hands. Can Aaron Smith extend his points lead tonight, or can Scott Sobczak try to make up some ground on our points leader?
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot to follow tonight with just 2 races, including tonight, remaining on the Apex Energy Cup Series schedule this season. We'll look at points, as you mentioned, another couple stories to follow throughout the race after we get to our pre-race tradition here at Slingshot Racing with the national anthem. We'll play that, and we'll be back right around the corner. All right, we are back at Rockingham Speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina. Actually, about 10 miles outside of Rockingham, but who's counting? Ellis Thomas here, joined by Chris Smith in the booth. I didn't mention it when we came in, but I am a little bit under the weather, so you'll just have to live with my voice tonight. But we appreciate you sticking with us. Great national anthem. You're looking live at qualifying right now on the track. That is Scott Sobczak, your current second place runner up in points. He's looking to close the gap on Aaron Smith tonight, watching several cars make their way around the track. We're going to follow that. We're also going to follow some stories that we were talking about here earlier before the break. First of all, being the point standings, Chris. 2 races left in this Apex Energy Cup Series season, and Aaron Smith leads Scott Sobczak in that number 81 by 15 points. And we can see those points on the screen right now. 15 points back. It's really a 2-horse battle at this point between Smith and Sobczak. Randy Bechtel and Rye Jones both having really good runs in the points, but what are we gonna have to see tonight from Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith to really take it down into Homestead, Miami with a real nail biter of a championship race?
Well, this race has a tendency to go green for long periods of time. And if you've watched the Apex Energy Cup Series, that's what you've noticed in a lot of the races that we've done. We've had several caution-free events. So, it'll be interesting to see who has the pace on the long run tonight. I think that the person who does will probably be the person who finds himself in victory lane, or the person who's making up a lot of points tonight. Scott Sobczak has those bonus points, and those bonus points has kept him in the game. You get a bonus point by leading a lap, leading the most laps, getting a pole, and having the fastest lap of the race. So, those bonus points has definitely helped Scott, remain close to Aaron here, and he's still within striking distance, but if Aaron gains a little bit of ground tonight, it's going to be tough for Scott next week at Homestead.
Yeah, 42 bonus points, and Sobczak looking to get another one tonight, currently sitting first on the grid with a lap of 24.08. We'll see if anyone can top that here in the remaining 2 minutes of qualifying. But a couple other stories we're going to be following are the tips for success tonight. What are drivers going to have to do to really manage this race and find themselves up front by the end of those 197 laps? One of the key things that we're going to be looking at is tires. We know we've got 4 sets of tires tonight, which gives the drivers a little bit of latitude in terms of strategy, and it maybe allows them to drive a little bit harder. But as we mentioned, this is a tough track on tires. So we've seen a couple races where tire strategy did play a role. Do you expect to see that final set of tires really play a role late in the goings of tonight's race?
It very well could, especially if we go green for a long distance. And, it depends on what type of strategies we see the guys play out. But if there's an extra set laying in the pits, we could be in for a real barn burner at the end of this show. We've seen people, I think back to Scott Sobczak a couple weeks back when he was getting within the pit, his pit window, and putting on tires once he got within the pit window. We could see, strategies like that one. We could also see some different types of tactics employed. We could see people go long and maybe try to save that set for that late race caution that comes out. So anytime we present the Cup Series drivers with that 4th set, we always open the possibilities up for that type of strategy to be employed.
Sure, and tire wear, as you mentioned, is going to be critical at this track. Old surface, worn out surface, bumpy surface is going to really challenge these Goodyear tires tonight. So we'll be looking to see what drivers are experiencing later on in a run and how those cars are handling, which leads me to this third point, throttle control tonight. I got out and did a few practice laps before the race, and what I did notice was that you've got to be really, there's got to be an egg under that throttle for the most part. You've got to be so gentle with that throttle, because if you hit that throttle too hard, whether it's on entry or exit in the corner, you're going around. That car is coming around on you. So I would expect that's going to play a role very early on in this race in terms of drivers just kind of being easy and tiptoeing it, and maybe getting a little bit more aggressive as the runs go on. But that could also spell disaster later in the run, between maybe a little bit more aggression and also the tires wearing out a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's true for any vehicle on this track. Throttle control is important for any vehicle on the track, but it's even more magnified with this car. With the monster horsepower that these cars have, it's going to be very, very important to make sure that you are easy back on the throttle center of the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last week was a barn burner at Talladega, and we might see another barn burner, but for different reasons in terms of pit strategy and the championship battle we've got going tonight, Chris. But that's pretty much it for the pre-race stories. Qualifying is over, and these drivers are lining up on the grid. Let's go ahead and take a look at the starting grid for the Sim Racing Tech 200 tonight from Rockingham Speedway for these Apex Energy Cup Series cars. We've got Scott Sobczak, Chris, earning that bonus point, as we mentioned, starting on the pole. Right behind him, or to his outside, rather, is going to be Aaron Smith, his championship, adversary, starting on the top of row number 1. Rye Jones, coming off with a great victory at Talladega, is going to be starting third. Chris Pierce, great start for him after a series of good finishes, is going to be starting in the 4th position. Tony Hilbrun's looking to see if he can seal the deal tonight. He's got a little bit of speed, starting on the inside of row number 3. Right next to him is Randy Bechtel, who looks like he's waiting to grid to the last minute, and that number 18. A little bit of a different scheme we're seeing for our Randy Bechtel tonight in that Jeff Gordon Rainbow Warrior throwback scheme. Johnny Rapp starting in that iconic black and orange Mission Barbecue Dodge, starting in the inside of row 4. Alongside him, Lee Campbell. Good finish last week for Lee with a top 3 finish, starting 8th tonight, looking to continue that momentum here at Rockingham. Brady Powers and Patrick Colby are going to bring up the final row for the Apex Energy Cup Series. I'm not sure if Patrick Colby's actually gridded up. Okay, now I do see him. He's gridded up. As the drivers are going to take off from the front stretch, pace car is going to bring them around for a single lap before we take the green. And as we mentioned, these cars are really, they are hanging on by a thread when it comes to the throttle through these corners. So that's going to be something we're watching for these first couple of laps here. A race analysis, we're looking like about 65 to 70 laps on a tank of fuel. So that'll be when these cars make their way down pit road for the first time. 191 miles, I should say 197 laps tonight, 200 miles. 3 sets of tires available. And Chris, that bottom point right there underneath that tire note, high tire day expected. Tires are going to wear out. We'll be following that story as we go through these 197 laps. Pace car leads them through turn number 4, and it's going to get ready to pull off here. Scott Sobczak is going to lead him down here at Rockingham Motor Speedway. Green flag is out in the Sim Racing Tech 200 from Rockingham. Aaron Smith to his outside. Right now it's 2x2x2. Aaron Smith a little loose on that outside line, Chris, but Scott Sobczak maintaining pretty steady line on that inside. Aaron Smith is going to channel that looseness into a run of speed off that corner. He's going to get right down to that bottom, though. Scott Sobczak going to switch lanes with him. Maybe liking what he saw in Aaron Smith's first corner. You see he gets a run. Scott's going to see if he can fight for the lead. Not going to be able to lead that lap, but he is going to lead him down into turn number 1. Chris Pierce. Chris, how about it? Up a position into 3rd place right now.
Yeah, what you saw when everybody got down to turns 3 and 4 is they all fanned out. You've got all kinds of options here. I'd be curious to see what lines and what mentalities play out and what wins out over the course of the long run. But that's one thing that drivers love about coming here to Rockingham is you've got choices, you've got options when you get down to the corner.
Absolutely, and right now your leader is Scott Sobczak. He's choosing to run the outside a little bit more than some of his other competitors are out there. We're going to see him jump down to the inside in 3 here, but that battle for second is an interesting one with Chris Pierce on the outside. Going to see if he can get a run on that number 1 car, that championship leader of Aaron Smith. Looks like Tony Hilbrun's got a little bit loose off of turn 4 there, but he holds on to it and everything keeps on going straight there. Chris Pierce looking like he's going to take over the 2nd position, though, right now, Chris.
Yeah, what I'm seeing from the 1 car of Aaron Smith, really, really, really easy on corner entry, not charging the corner, trying to do everything he can to keep that right front under him. And, he's really playing the long run game tonight, it looks like.
And we saw him do the exact same thing at Dover a few weeks back, Chris. Maybe a little bit too close for comfort for Aaron Smith at Dover a few weeks ago, where it came down to the final 10 or 15 laps, whether before we knew if he was going to win or not. Looking like he's following a similar strategy tonight. Something to be, watched tonight, however, I think is Scott Sobczak, who, I just want to point this out. At the beginning of the season, Scott Scott would have a lot of upfront speed at the beginning of these runs, and he'd fade as races went by. But what we've seen from Scott in that 81 car, driving out of California, is that he has maintained pace. He started to really hang on to those tires, but he's maintained the speed to go along with it. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on tonight. I probably expect to see more out of Scott in the way of tire management tonight. But don't speak too soon, because Chris Pierce in that 25 car is not letting that 81 get too far out in front of him, Chris.
No, he's not. He's doing a really nice job. And what I'm noticing, they're both running pretty high down in 1-2. We see Sobzak up the hill a little bit here in 3 and 4, but lap before he ran a little bit lower. Let's see what they do down here in 1 and 2. Looks like Sobzak's charging the corner a little bit harder than Pierce is. Pierce is trying to do an earlier turn down on corner exit. That's a popular line that you see here that a lot of drivers take. So we'll have to see how these different lines work out over the course of the long run.
Yeah, and Patrick Cobley, I believe, in that 9, just had a bit of a moment off of turn number 2 about half a lap ago. I think he got a little bit loose and took it down to the backstretch wall, but all is good. No harm, no foul for the driver of that number 9, Patrick Colby, who is right now sitting in 9th place. We got a battle brewing for 7th place between Brady Powers and Johnny Rapp, right in front of Patrick Colby, though. That is looking like it's shaping up here pretty nicely. Brady Powers in that black and white number 22, Johnny Rapp in that 52. You can see that onboard shot, that rear bumper cam looking back at Johnny Rapp right now, who is right in the tire tracks. Johnny gets a little bit loose there, it looks like, but he's going to hang on to it and maintain. Probably about 3 or 4 car lengths back from the 22, but Patrick Colby not letting the 52. After making that mistake earlier off the 2, Patrick Colby's recovering nicely and seeing if he can make a kind of a pass for a position that he lost with that mistake a couple laps ago, Chris.
Yeah, and we didn't really have time to mention it because in qualifying, but one thing that I wanted to point out was just the huge variation in lap times that we saw. It was almost a second spread out across the top 10, and you normally don't see that at a lot of tracks, especially here in the Apex Energy Cup Series, but it speaks to how difficult these cars are to drive around this very difficult track.
Yeah, they really are. As we watch this battle for 7th place, I would imagine right now it's really difficult right now for Brady to keep that car kind of on the bottom and maintain that speed. You got to want to hit the throttle to see if you can keep up with the 52, but you got to be careful not to hit that throttle too fast, because if you do anything other than feather it, that 22 car is probably going around. We see Johnny Rapp get the better end of that battle, pulling out to about a 7-car length lead. Patrick Colby looking to see if he can follow that 52 right through there down into turn. Oh, Brady Powers loose. Great save from the 22 off turn number 2.
Save.
Onto the backstretch. Lee Campbell looking to see if he can capitalize on that mistake by the 22, going to take it up the high line. I imagine those tires are angry right now as we watch Brady Powers really struggle getting that car underneath him as he comes down the front straightaway right now on lap number 14 of 197 from this Slingshot Racing Series. Sim Racing Tec 200 from Rockingham Speedway. Right up at the front, though, we're going to rejoin the lead. Scott Sobzak is your leader right now, leading all 14 now, 15 laps, wire to wire, but Chris Pierce is not going anywhere in that 81's rear view mirror, Chris. Chris doing a really good job of hanging on to the lead right now in 2nd place. Hey, want to give a shout out to that paint scheme. A little bit of a familiar look, but also a different look tonight from Chris Pierce in that green and white One Earth paint scheme. A little bit of a positive environmental message that Chris Pierce is running on that car. Everyone can do their part, whether it's recycling or making a number of adjustments, simple turning down or up your thermostat a little bit, but Chris Pierce supporting that mission tonight in that One Earth Pontiac. What is that, a Pontiac Grand Prix, Chris?
It is, Pontiac Grand Prix.
Absolutely, and he's doing his part tonight by really keeping track of that back bumper, maybe saving a little bit of gas. He's so close to the rear bumper of Scott Sobzak 81, maybe getting a little bit of draft, a little bit less resistance on that front end of that 25.
Yeah, I just want to point out just the difference in line that we're noticing here. Watching from the rear bumper of Scott Sobzak, See how high Chris Pierce is running on both ends of the track. Look how low Aaron Smith and Tony Hilbrun's are running on both ends of the track. You know, I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. I think that the course of, how they save their tires and running the lines they're running, we'll have to watch that over the course of this long run and see how that plays out. I always like to do, my personal preference was to be high down here on this end in 1 and 2 and sort of shoot to the bottom like you see Sobczak doing, and then try to wrap the bottom down here in 3 and 4. I always like running that yellow line down here in 3 and 4.
Yeah, and you can see both of those drivers not quite wrapping it, but Scott Sobczak certainly lower than second place Chris Pierce is right now. Hey, I want to take a check back in the field. Randy Bechtel, after starting in third position, Randy kind of struggling right now in the 6th position. Lost 2 or 3 positions since the beginning of the race about 20 laps ago. Driving that special Jeff Gordon Rainbow Warrior scheme, this driver out of Pennsylvania has had a string up until last week of top 3 runs. Looking to see if he can get back on track tonight in that number 18 car. But he looks just watching him drive around right now, I'm not noticing anything. He looked a little bit loose earlier in the race, but I think everyone is probably experiencing the same thing right now as that driver, that number 18, makes his way down the backstretch.
Yeah, I think that for Randy, nice and smooth all race right here. I do want to ride on board right here and show everybody who is watching how early you're on the brakes here in 1 and 2. It feels like you're just past the start-finish line when you start to slow down for 1 and 2. This is a lot tighter corner than 3 and 4. 3 and 4 feels, Rye Jones, hold on to it.
Great save by the driver of that number 7. Rye Jones, great shot we got on board that 18.
Yeah, you saw it right in Randy Bechtel's windshield. That was, if you're Randy Bechtel, you were drawing up right there. But yeah, nice save by Rye, and that's back to that throttle control we talked about earlier. It's just so easy to do that here with these cars, with all the horsepower they have. It's easy to do that in any car here, but especially these things.
Absolutely. Rye Jones making a great save here on lap 23 of 197. Now the leader crosses the line to start lap 24. Scott Sobczak is that leader that we just mentioned. Chris Pierce in second, and I'll note that lead that was about 3 car lengths about 5 laps ago has drawn back to probably about 15 car lengths now for Chris Pierce, but he has fallen into the clutches of the driver of that number 1, your championship leader, Aaron Smith right now. See if he can work over the driver of that number 25 to claim or reclaim that second position after starting there at the beginning of this race. The tale of 2 different lines as you're watching right now. Chris Pierce really getting friendly with that wall on both ends of the track, and Aaron Smith, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, really just keeping as close to that yellow line, that bottom of the track as possible, and he's really making it work, hanging on to his right fronts probably. Chris Pierce might be burning those off a little bit quicker than the driver of that number 1 car.
Yeah, this is looking like an Aaron Smith type of a night here, if you're asking me. He is doing a really nice job of not attacking the corner too hard. I think the guys who are going to struggle tonight are guys that maybe are just driving into, on corner entry just a little bit too deep. Aaron Smith is looking like, you saw the 25 really close up on Aaron right there. I think that maybe he was a little bit surprised by how much Aaron was, backing off the throttle. Well, I think that Chris Pierce actually changed his line a little bit that time in 3 and 4. That's smart right there. That's a guy right there who's paying attention to the fast guys around him.
Caution out on the track. It looks like
Rye Jones. Let's see what happened to the driver of the number 7 here. Saw him have a big moment off of turn 2 earlier, and oh no. Oh, he got in a tank slapper, and yeah, he didn't hit anything. You're right. But it did bring out a caution because it was on the racing line right there when he was sliding sideways.
Interesting. Okay, well, hey, we'll take a caution however we can get it. This is going to give these leaders a bit of an interesting call here on pit road, Chris. We're only about 30 laps, 28 to be precise. And right now, Scott Sobczak is staying on the track as he watched leaders come in. Sobzak is staying on the track while everyone other than Johnny Rapp and Scott Sobzak are going to come down pit road. Whether they take tires is unclear. We're going to probably get a good idea by just looking at how long these cars are on pit road, Chris. But
Yeah.
if you're coming down right now, are you taking tires in one of your three other sets?
I don't.
197 lap.
I just don't think I would. I think that you might just see some fuel only stops right here. We'll see if we see the right sides of any of these cars. We got 4 here in front of us. Which one's jack up? Randy Bechtel looked like he is right side jacked up right there.
Doesn't look like your top 3 or 4, however, are.
Yeah. Randy Bechtel is taking tires, it looks like. Rye Jones is taking tires. Of course, he was sliding, on the backstretch there, so I think that's a good call. I want to say it looks like Patrick Colby took a set of tires right there as well. So from what I'm seeing on my end right here, we've got Randy Bechtel was the first one on 4 tires. Patrick Colby also with 4. Rye Jones and Brady Powers. So we got 4 drivers on 4 fresh set of tires, and it's going to be fun watching these guys drive up through the field.
Absolutely. You're going to have guys on fresh tires in the back. You're going to have Scott Sobzak and Johnny Rapp, as well as Aaron Smith, Chris Pierce, and Tony Hilbrun's all on, as well as Lee Campbell, all on older tires. I do know, speaking of Lee Campbell, we got a Lee Campbell fan in the chat right now, Maddie19, rooting Lee on. So thanks for joining us. If you're watching, let us know what driver you're rooting for by just letting us know in the chat right now. But we are 30 laps in to the 197 laps we have slated tonight in the Sim Racing Tech 200 here from Rockingham, from the Slingshot Racing League in the Apex Energy Cup Series. Lights are off on the pace car. Drivers bringing them down the backstretch. Johnny Rapp is going to be your leader. He's the control car on this restart.
I think that Scott Sobzak is the control car.
My apology. Yeah, you're right.
It's okay.
Scott Sobzak.
But he took the top because he saw how that worked on that initial start. So Scott learned something there, and I think that you might see the leader taking the top for the rest of the night.
I think you're probably right based on what we've seen out of the speed of those cars. Pace car pulls off. And Scott Sobzak goes, he spins the tires a little bit, but he's
in the wall.
Into the wall. Chris Pierce, Aaron Smith going to jump to the inside, and it looks like Sobzak's going to lose at least 3 spots on that. But Tony Hilbrun's going to take it 3 wide into turn 2 here. He's going to make it work. He's going to take the 3rd position after starting that restart back in the 5th or 6th position. Tony Hilbrun's gaining at least 3 spots. Johnny Rapp right now is scored as your leader, but his second place counterpart right now, Aaron Smith, is in 2nd. But man, things are getting crazy back there for 5th and 6th position between Randy Bechtel, Scott Sobzak, who continues to lose spots. Sobzak's in the wall again, Chris. Really a struggle right now for the driver, that 81. And as we mentioned, he did not take tires. And he wasn't the only driver who didn't take tires, but he is really struggling. After starting in the lead, Chris, he's almost all the way back to the 9th position right now, as as my scoring is showing.
Yeah, and it's a race between all the guys who are on tires to try to get to the front first. Here comes Randy Bechtel. Here comes Patrick Colby. They're trying to get there. Meanwhile, Aaron Smith is ducking to the inside of, trying to look on Johnny Rapp. But here comes Randy Bechtel. Randy's going to get there first.
And that you can see how much of the difference those fresh tires mean to be able to stick to the bottom and wrap that bottom line and really work it towards the inside. See a little bit of smoke there on the front straight right now, but that's Randy Bechtel taking over the lead here on lap 34 of 197. Johnny Rapp also ceding 2nd place now to Patrick Colby on fresh tires as well. So as we mentioned, that race to the lead among those drivers on fresh tires, the quicker you get there, the less wear you have to put on those tires. And already given up a fresh set, that's going to be important as this race moves forward.
Yes, it is.
Ryan
and
Jones,
yeah, I mean,
flipping in 3rd place after bringing out that caution.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, Rye Jones right now looking real good. We'll go back here to a couple laps back and see if we can see something that might have happened with Brady Powers. This is coming off of turn 4. The driver of the 22. Oh, no. I saw Brady out, and I was wondering what possibly happened. That was just an intense battle right there with Sobzak, and unfortunately the driver of the 22 was, unfortunately, looks like he might be done for the night. A lot of damage to that car.
Yep, that Brady Powers car has retired from the racing. Chris, and Sometimes I love iRacing, but the caution system on the auto cautions,
Yeah.
I don't quite understand how we got a caution from the Rye Jones incident, but there was no incident caution for the driver of that number 22
Yeah.
on that.
I
So
feel like that's been the story of both the Cup Series and the Truck Series this season. So many
no rhyme or
times.
reason.
Yeah, so many times, that was a caution or that wasn't a caution. I find myself asking that question, a lot lately. So hopefully that's something that can get squared away.
Hey, well, let me tell you, none of these drivers are showing any sort of caution here tonight because just right now on lap 36, Randy Bechtel and Patrick Colby sequentially set the fastest laps of their race. Patrick Colby set it on 35, and then Randy Bechtel answered back to the fastest lap on 36 as we watch the battle for the lead right now between these two drivers really heat up. Randy Bechtel is a guy who we saw win the Daytona opener in the Apex Energy Cup Series, and it looked like he was going to be on pace to make a championship run, and he is in third place as Patrick Colby looks low on him. 18 doesn't quite give him the line, but Bechtel slowly working his way back to that winning fashion. Hasn't gotten back to victory lane since Daytona, but we've seen him have some really strong second and third place runs right now, giving up the lead to Patrick Colby. But I'm just watching these two cars drive, Chris, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it looks like that 9 car is pushing a lot harder right now than that 18 car.
Yeah, I say that's a fair assessment. We're actually right on board right here with Randy Bechtel. And you can really get a good idea right here how deep the 9 is at driving it in on quarter entry. You see how he's up the track a little bit here. He did a lot better job that time, I think, than he did the corner before. Sometimes all you want to do, you want to drive really hard to get to the lead. And once you get to the lead, all right, I'm going to back off right here. I got clean air and try to save my stuff. So that maybe is Patrick's mentality here. He just wanted to get that track position. And, also, let's get some TV time. Let's get some bonus points for leading the lap.
Patrick Colby doing a good job out there. That driver from New Hampshire really kind of has shown some speed this season. He won a race in the Apex Energy Truck Series earlier in the season and hasn't really visited victory lane or had a lot of super fast runs this season. But right now, showing a lot of speed early on lap number 43 of 197. Getting a little bit of distance away from Randy Bechtel. Now about 4 or 5 car lengths as they pull down the backstretch here at Rockingham Speedway. Rye Jones probably about 10 car lengths back in that number 7 Hellcat Dodge. Aaron Smith, your points leader, is sitting fourth, but he's got Scott Sobczak, who, Chris, just about 15 laps ago, Scott Sobczak was near the back of the field after coming in contact with the wall on that last restart we had, but he is slowly working his way back through the field. What do you think that's doing to his tires?
Well, I think that's a guy who's got a lot of confidence in himself and, getting around this track, that's a really, really nice recovery to come up through the field. A lot of the guys that he's racing with are on equal tires. One thing I will mention is that they are on they have more fuel in their cars tonight. What that will do is that will loosen those cars up just a little bit, having that extra fuel added to them. So a fuel run is about 65 to 70 laps. So what that did for guys like, Aaron Smith and Tony Hilbrun's, Chris Pierce, is that just gave them options to go a little bit longer. They still have a set of tires in the pits. But Scott Sobczak obviously felt like it wasn't that big a deal for him to come to pit road at that point. So, we'll see how that plays out over the course of the run if that comes back to hurt the driver of the 81.
Absolutely. Scott Sobczak struggling a little bit to get by the driver of that one car, but great recovery right now for that 81 Square D Ford Taurus of Scott Sobczak, chasing down the points leader, the guy he's chasing on the track, but also chasing in the points right now. You had mentioned pit stops coming up probably in about 20 laps or less for a couple of these guys who stayed out earlier. Right now, probably a good opportunity here in just a moment. We'll follow this battle for second place here or third place, actually fourth place, I should say. Scott Sobczak gets the wall a little bit. We'll follow this for a couple more laps and see if there's any sort of decision here. Right now, Aaron Smith gets a little bit of about maybe 2 car lengths gap on the 81. But we're going to be taking a break here in just a minute, but I do hate to leave this racing action that we've got as we follow the 81 through turn number 2 there.
Yeah, he's trying to generate a run on the exit of 2. He wants to get a little bit closer down the backstretch.
Oh, look, they change up the lines. Aaron Smith takes that line away.
Taking his line away from him. Yeah, that's an option that you have here. That's something that you can do. Haven't really seen Aaron Smith up off the bottom too much other than the first lap of the race. So that's an interesting decision there. We'll see if he does it again down here in 3 and 4. Man, Scott Sobczak is really getting a nice run on the exit of turn 2. Aaron's running high up here again. If I'm Aaron Smith, I'm seeing that run on the exit of 2, and I'm thinking, man, maybe I want to run up high a little bit down there on this end. But, you know, Aaron is also, he's really, really good at saving those tires. Maybe he feels like that's where he needs to be, to make those tires last.
Speaking of saving tires, first car on pit road for this set of green flag pit stops, Johnny Rapp. And if you'll remember, back to that first caution, Johnny Rapp in that number 52 did not stop. So this is an expected stop, maybe even a little bit earlier than expected, but really probably feeling the effect of those tires, Chris. And I suspect this is the old split it in quarter strategy. Right now, pitting on lap 51, and they're 200 laps. So he'll probably, if I had to guess, if things stay green, pit on lap 100 and 150. Is that a fair assumption as to what Johnny Rapp in that 52 might be doing?
Yeah, I say that Johnny probably had a game plan coming into tonight, and he is sticking to that game plan by coming in on lap 50. Dividing the race up into 4 stints. You've got just enough tires to do that. Especially with how things have gone this season in the Cup Series with long green flag runs, I'm not a bit surprised by him doing that strategy. As we see, this battle between our 2 points leaders just will not go away. Smith and Sobczak. Smith a little bit loose right there in corner exit, struggling for forward bite as these tires get a little bit older. All right, Aaron's now, he's really high down in 1 and 2, and he's using that run down the hill method. That car looked really tight right there in the center of 1 and 2 to me.
I hate to shift focus away from this battle because it's so good, but right now up at the front, we've also got a battle for the lead as Patrick Colby and the 18 of Randy Bechtel work their way through lap traffic early on right now, lap 54 of 197. Randy Bechtel was just about a car length from the back bumper of that number 9 of Patrick Colby, but as they passed that 25 car of Chris Pierce, Bechtel lost just a little bit of the edge that he had as both of these leaders just crossed the start-finish line, headed into 1, and you can see the difference in line. Patrick Colby getting a little bit higher up off the corner, generating that run. He gets a little bit loose off that corner, though. Right now, Randy Bechtel going to get a pretty good run on the backstretch, headed down into turn number 3.
Yeah, Randy Bechtel really, really wrapping the bottom nice down there in 3 and 4, getting back to the throttle nice and smooth, making up a lot of ground in the center of the corner. Look how that car turns right in the center. That's what you want at this point of the run. These guys, they are on the fresher tires. Right now, they've got about 27 laps on this stint here. This is at the point where you start to feel those tires giving up just a little bit, and whose is going to give up quicker.
Yep, I think that's the name of the game here, is who's been driving harder. As we've watched the run go on, we saw Randy Bechtel slip back a little bit, but he's creeped right back into the picture as both of these drivers come up on Tony Hilbrand's right now. And Chris, one of the reasons we're seeing these cars go a lap down like this, certainly so early after a caution, as you mentioned, is because certainly these first 3 drivers are on fresh tires, about 30 laps fresher than guys like Tony Hilbrand's that they're making their way around right now. So that might be a little bit deceiving as Tony Hilbrand's gets on the wall a little bit down into turn number 4, whether he was making room for the leaders or not. That right side of that car is going to be banged up just a little bit on that 92.
Yeah, if I'm Sobczak and if I'm Aaron Smith, I'm a little bit nervous to go too much longer here. I'm starting to feel a little bit nervous about going this long. I mean, the gap to them from the lead to them is right now 16 seconds. Of all the guys who did not put on tires, they are the closest to the leaders, and they're 16 seconds back. You can see the difference in lap speed. The top 3 clearly in the 25-second bracket, and everybody else other than Johnny Rapp, who is on fresh tires, is in that 26-second range. So big variation in the lap speed between these guys as Randy Bechtel pulls right up on the back bumper of Patrick Colby.
Yeah, this is a great battle for the lead we've got going on. These guys running really fast lap times compared to our drivers back
Oh,
in
Colby
third,
loose.
fourth, fifth. Yeah, really, that's one of the things I've been noticing about that 9 car. Really loose off of both sides of the track, both of those turns 2 and turn 4. Brady Bechtel jumps to the inside. Backstretch looking like that 18 is going to have the line coming down here into turn number 3. Patrick Colby is going to give it up. But while that battle is going on, Chris, that driver number 7, Rye Jones, last week's winner at Talladega, is going to sneak right back in the picture as we ride on board right now with Patrick Colby. You'll probably get a good sense of just how loose that number 9 car is right now driving around Rockingham Speedway. Rye Jones having a pretty good run himself.
Yeah, we saw him with that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, we saw him with that spin earlier, and he's made a nice recovery. He elected to put on his tires then, and hey, that might have been a race-saving move for Rye Jones. That put him, basically let him flip the track and get some track position after, that spin. So, a nice strategy move by Rye Jones, because this thing is looking like it's got a green flag look to it, as here comes Johnny Rapp on those new tires.
Tires, yep, absolutely. This is gonna have a say in how this race looks, because Johnny Rapp was one of those cars who stayed out, and I think Johnny did a little bit better job maintaining track position than Scott Sobczak, kind of the other guy who stayed out on fresh tires. So right now, Johnny Rapp looking to get
he's
one
loose.
of those 2 laps back, but he is definitely
driving hard
loose on those fresh tires. So he's got 1 lap of those 2 laps that he was down back now. Johnny Rapp in that Mission Barbecue number 52. Yeah, Johnny, on the podcast about a month ago, and really got to learn a little bit about the history of that paint scheme that we've now seen for several seasons with Slingshot Racing. One of Johnny's favorite restaurants. He appreciates the kind of the mission of Mission Barbecue, no pun intended, kind of honoring first responders and service people all around the country with their franchises, whether it be through kind of the memorabilia or displays on the wall. They have a weekly ceremony to honor service members and first responders. So always good to see kind of someone supporting a good cause on their car each week. So yeah, Johnny having a pretty good run, trying to get his laps back on this kind of off-sequence pit cycle that he is on. Pit strategy, I should say. Chris Pierce rejoining the racetrack. One of those cars that originally elected to not take tires. Now on fresh tires, I'm sure he's going to be relieved to have a little bit more speed on that 25 car after running 2nd and 3rd place earlier in this race.
Yeah, I think Chris Pierce said uncle. He he had been on those tires for a long time, and he made the pit stop earlier to just take fuel only, and falling back like that on those old tires has put him 3 laps down. Now, this could shake out to work out okay for him, for Chris Pierce, but we're gonna have to watch it. We're gonna have to wait and see and watch how it works out for some of these guys like Johnny Rapp, Chris Pierce, along with the driver of the number 92 who's on pit road right now, Tony Hilbrun's getting 4 tires, and Scott Sobczak.
Scott Sobczak, the guy who was leading the race earlier, now on pit road. Tony Hilbrun's also pitting from the 5th or 6th position. Scott Sobczak with that lead pit stall. Going to see if his pit crew can get him out here quickly. And we're about to really, I think, have a better picture, Chris, of how this race is going to play out, to see where these drivers are going to shuffle back into the running order after these pit stops, especially here once we see Randy Bechtel and Rye Jones maybe kind of get closer to making their pit stops. Now that the original leaders, I should say, are going to be on fresh tires.
Yeah, and we saw just up ahead, just down the road from Randy Bechtel, is your points leader, Aaron Smith. Johnny Rapp, who just got one of his laps back, was approaching the driver of the number 1. And, Aaron Smith is not too far from being put a lap down here. Now, that's to be expected. That's not a surprise or anything like that. In fact, it's a surprise that he's probably held on as long as he has, to the lead lap. But
I think he might be getting ready to make a stop. Actually.
Yeah, it's looking like he's fading a little bit low down the backstretch here. He wants to have that inside line to come down pit road, and we'll see if the driver of the number 1 makes a stop here.
Oh, not yet. Oh, yeah, he's blowing up. I looked like he might overdo it a little bit, but he looks like he's going to get down to pit road speed. A little bit of brake smoke there as he crosses that pit road entrance line, but he looks like he got it wove down. Lee Campbell's going to join him. Actually, is that Lee Campbell? That's actually
Yeah, it is.
Patrick Colby.
Okay,
Patrick
Patrick
Colby
Colby's on pick.
behind him. Yeah, so
That's an interesting decision. So we've got Smith, Lee Campbell, and Patrick Colby, all three of them on pit road, and yeah, that's an interesting call because Patrick Colby came in with Randy Bechtel and Ryan Jones to take tires. Then let's see. I'm not seeing the. I don't think I saw the right side.
yeah,
Oh no. Okay, there it goes. I didn't think that I
okay.
saw the car jack up there, but yeah, it did. And so he's got 4 tires. So that's 2 sets down for the driver of the 9. We'll have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, interesting strategy here on lap 73 of 197 for Patrick Colby, who's already gone through 2 out of 4, actually 3 out of 4 sets of tires on that 9 car. But Randy Bechtel, about 2.5-second lead right now on Rye Jones, that second place car. Patrick Colby is in 3rd. Johnny Rapp in 4th. Scott Sobczak in 5th. Aaron Smith, your championship leader, is in 6th place. 2 laps down at this point. Tony Hilburn's in 7th. Chris Pearson 8th. Lee Campbell in 9th. Brady Powers is retired from the race, Chris. So right now, lap 75, we're probably, what would you say, 15 laps away from a Randy Bechtel pit stop, 10 to 15 laps?
I'd say that's a fair bit.
All right, well, how about that? How about we go ahead, take a quick break, hear from our partners who help pay the bill, some great products. We appreciate their support. We'll catch you viewers here on the other side of the break. How do we get these one-of-a-kind amazing trophies? Well, we were fortunate to find UD Awards when we started our league. We reached out and we connected with Christopher, and we got started designing these one-of-a-kind works of art. The process was easy from start to finish. After just a few revisions, we finalized each one of them, and the team at UD got to work building each trophy from scratch. They're a small team, but they've got the ability to do just about anything your brain can imagine. And don't worry, if you're not an artist, they've got an entire catalog of unique trophies in pretty much any material you can imagine. Wood, acrylic, glass, and in the case of last season's trophy, metal. The best part, they're affordable. If you're looking for a trophy for your event or league, the choice is simple. UD Awards can give you exactly what you want.
Are you looking for high-quality, affordable sim racing paint schemes and graphics? Then look no further than Evan at Evan Pienta Designs. Driven by speed, Evan Pienta Designs offers a multitude of sim racing graphics, from liveries to social media graphics to team and series logos. To see some of the work done by Evan, or even race one of the public liveries he's made, head on over to tradingpaints.com and search Evan Pienta.
All right, we are back at Rockingham Speedway for the Apex Energy Cup Series Sim Racing Tech 200 here from Slingshot Racing League. We're looking at that number 9 car, Chris, and he is not the leader right now. He's actually a lap down. But right before we went to break, the 9 car did come down pit road for his second pit stop of the race. He has now taken 3 out of 4 sets of tires that he has available. And initially we were kind of, I think it took maybe a few minutes for us to process and figure out maybe what the driver of that 9, Patrick Colby, was thinking. But share with the viewers who are watching now and in the replay kind of what you think the number the driver of that 9 is thinking, Patrick Colby, right now.
So I think that Patrick is doing everything he can to try to maximize speed at this point. He's trying to go as fast as he can. He has already taken 2 sets of tires, meaning that he just has 1 left. And I think that he has calculated out his fuel to where he knows that he can make it to the end on just 1 more stop. And so he's trying to not only maximize the speed on the track, but minimize his time on pit road. I think that this could work out for him, possibly. We'll have to watch and we'll have to wait and see, like how this works out for Patrick. But, yeah, this is an interesting strategy. It's a bold call. And it could work out for him if this thing goes green to the end. I'm going to be really curious. And, it could also be a situation where, because he's going to have to stretch this set and the next one for a long time, he might give up a ton of speed at the end of the run, and it might wind up not working out for him. Because we can see how slow Randy Bechtel is right now.
Randy's going to be coming to pit lane this time by, I believe.
Yeah, but
so the 18 getting it woed up, coming down for a pit stop, maybe not.
No.
Maybe not. I thought he was going to.
But that just shows right there, like how the the speed variation, and for Patrick, it's going to be tight. It's going to be close, to see if he can do this. But I'm going to be interested to see if that pays off for him. That's a bold strategy, and I like to see a call like that.
Big swing for the driver of that number 9 car, who has now gotten his lap back from Randy Bechtel. So he is about 22 seconds off the lead right now, but that's a far cry from the 2 laps he was down earlier after taking that pit stop. As you mentioned, those fresh tires at this point in the race really making a huge difference. Rye Jones exiting pit road after his second pit stop of the race. So a little bit later of a pit stop in terms of strategy for the driver of that number 7 car. We've got at least 3 different strategies working tonight. And that's what we were talking about during the break, Chris. The beauty of adding that additional set of tires sometimes is that it does give all sorts of options for people to make big swings like the driver of this number 9 car has, as well as Rye Jones, who we saw be the cause of the initial caution, really fighting back to run inside the top 3, seeing if he can also get a little bit of time here by stopping early.
Yeah, you saw, Rye Jones, I think that he might have played a little bit different, strategy, a little bit different idea right there. Maybe from what he originally did, but maybe that was his goal all along to do what he did there. Rye Jones now has, I think, just 1 set of tires remaining as well. So, that's a strategy that is similar to Patrick Colby's. He's got right now about 14, 15 lap fresher tires than Patrick Colby. But I think both those drivers can make it to the end on just 1 more stop. So we'll see how this works out. We'll see how this plays. I don't have any idea about what's going to be successful. I'm just very curious now.
The driver of that 7 car can definitely make it as you watch them inch by Johnny Rapp in the 52. Smith also going by the number 1, the championship leader, Aaron Smith right now. One thing I am curious about to get your input on here is this battle on track between the 9 and his number 92 teammate of Tony Hilbrun's. Tony's not really giving way to the 9 right now, and I don't know, in terms of speed, I'm looking at Tony ran a 25.6 that last time. Patrick Colby ran a 24.5.
Yeah,
actually, that was their best, I should say. I don't have their last was Patrick Colby ran a 25.5. Tony Hilbrun's ran a 25.5 as well.
Yeah, they're pretty close on tire life. Tony Hilbrun's has about 5 lap older tires than Patrick Colby. If you're Patrick Colby, you want to clear him quickly. You're trying to make this strategy work. Of course, Tony Hilbert is also trying to make his strategy work too. So while they're not on the same lap and while they're not, racing for a position, they're both, driving really hard. And hey, if Daytona proved anything to us, it's that the drivers of Yellow Vision, they race each other as hard as they race anybody else on the track.
They really do. I'm watching that differential between Randy Bechtel and Patrick Colby shrink right now about 17 seconds, but I just couldn't help but wonder if that gap would be shrinking even faster if these two drivers weren't racing next to each other. But hey, it's making for entertaining TV right now as we watch that purple and green. There's something I love about that paint scheme. I love a good purple car. Tony Hilburn's really giving it all he's got, racing Patrick Colby, his teammate, on the track right now.
Yeah, he is. And Patrick just got to be disciplined here. Don't want to drive in too hard on corner entry. Got a really good exit that time. Turned off the corner a little bit loose on corner exit, but I think that he's going to have the pass made down here in 3 and 4. He wraps that bottom, gets back to the throttle, and he's going to clear the driver of the 92 on corner exit. As
still loose.
Yeah, he's struggling for forward bite right now. Maybe a little bit of frustration as he was trying to pass his teammate, but Patrick Colby gets that position there.
Absolutely right now. Patrick Colby is your second place runner. Randy Bechtel is your leader, but that gap is closing. We've talked about the difference in pit strategy between those two drivers here multiple times over the past several 15 or 20 minutes. Rye Jones is in third place. Scott Sobczak, let's keep an eye on that battle for fourth place right now between Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith. Both kind of on the same lap, both racing each other. This was what we thought was going to be the race for the lead for earlier on in the races. Turned out to be the battle for fourth place right now. Scott Sobczak keeping that kind of that mindset of running the top of the track, with Aaron Smith really staying glued down to that bottom line as we see Scott Sobczak change lines a little bit in turn 3 there, Chris. But this, depending on how the strategy goes, this could be the battle for the win later on in the race.
Yeah, it very well could be. It's just hard to say, as I think our leader is actually on pit road. Randy Bechtel on pit road.
Number 18 makes his way down pit road here on lap 100. This is going to be his second stop of the race. He'll have one set of tires remaining after this, and it looks like Randy might be going for this splitting the race into quadrants strategy, at least right now. With about 100 laps left, he'll probably try to get 50 or 60 laps out of this set and then finish off the last 40 to 50 laps with that final set of tires, Chris. He's going to rejoin the race after hitting in that third or fourth pit stall. So we're really going to have to start to have a good idea of how this strategy for Patrick Colby is playing out. Right now, Colby is going to put Randy Bechtel a lap down as Patrick Colby assumes the lead in that number 9 car. The closest car behind Patrick Colby is the 7 car of Rye Jones, running in second place. The guy, if you remember back earlier in the race, brought out the first caution, but really nice rebound for the driver of that number 7. Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith can't get away from each other on the track right now. As we look on board the rear bumper cam of Scott Sobczak, he is seeing yellow right now. So Scott and Aaron have been battling back and forth in the championship all year long, and right now it very much shades of Auto Club Speedway we saw several weeks ago. Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith really can't get away from each other on the track right now.
No, and I'm not surprised at all. These two drivers right here, they're very close on tire life at this point. I think that Sobczak has about 4 lap older tires than Smith does, but they're pretty close. Obviously close in speed. Seeing a little bit difference in the line right here. They're both committed to the bottom in 3 and 4 here. I think that's the fast way around in 3 and 4. And, down in 1 and 2, very, very different mentalities. I've always struggled to do what Aaron is doing here in 1 and 2. It's hard to run the bottom on this track down in 1 and 2, as looks like the driver of the 52, Johnny Rapp, is coming off pit road, just made his pit stop as well. And that's going to be his, I think that he's got one more set as well. So, yeah, he's doing a strategy that is similar to that of Randy Bechtel.
Yep, and Chris Pierce right now running in ninth position. Last car in the race after that retirement from Brady Powers. We did see Chris Pierce have some connection issues earlier on in the race. We saw him running second or third place much of the early going, but had some packet loss, the dreaded packet loss text in iRacing. I know.
Hate to see that.
Shame for Chris Pierce in that 25 car. But he's running in ninth place right now. Patrick Colby is your leader here on lap 106 of 197 in the Sim Racing Tech 200 from the Slingshot Racing League in the Apex Energy Cup Series. Tony Hilbrun's sitting in sixth place. We mentioned Tony really battling with his teammate, his Yellow Vision teammate of Patrick Colby earlier on in the race, but Tony settled into sixth place right now. He is the first car a lap down, and that strategy is similar to Patrick Colby. You mentioned he was on about 5 laps fresher of tires, but Tony's in that situation where he's going to want this thing to run green to the end pretty much and hope that he can stretch this to make it on one final stop.
Yeah, right now we'll pull up the last lap speeds. The driver that is looking pretty good right now is a driver of the number 7, Rye Jones. And if you're looking at the running order and you think, hey, that's the 91. Why Sobzak in the 17? That's because somebody forgot to change the numbers. It was me.
That's okay.
My fault. Sorry, Ryan. Sorry, Scott. We'll do better next week at the finale. But yeah, that's Rye Jones, and he is looking really, really fast. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him come up here and take the lead. Now, as the tires wear out and as we go for that run, we'll actually put up the stint numbers here up on the top 10 panel. You can see about 15 lap difference between Colby and Jones. As the laps, get added to the stint, it does become harder to make up ground. But if I'm Rod Jones, I'm feeling real good about where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I do think that 7 car is showing a good amount of speed as he's closed the gap to the lead down here about by 3 or 4 seconds just here in the last 2 to 3 laps. So Rye Jones really showing a lot of speed as he works his way by the lap car of Tony Hilbrun's. And he's going to be back to the back bumper of that number 9 here before you know it. So Rye Jones in second place, Scott Sobzak and Aaron Smith in third and fourth. Randy Bechtel, who is running that strategy of really hoping he can get maybe a late race caution to have that final set of tires remaining in his arsenal, is running in fifth place. Tony Hilbrun's in sixth. Lee Campbell, Chris, having a pretty good run in seventh tonight. Lee stayed out of trouble, it looks like, for the most part tonight. He is a lap down, but...
Oh, Aaron Smith tagged the wall on corner entry there.
Oh, and he looks like he couldn't get off the wall either.
Yeah, he was really high on corner entry, trying to arc it out, looked like, and tagged the wall. I mean, Randy Bechtel came up on these guys really, really fast on these new tires and is going to get by them quickly. Yeah, if I'm the driver of the 81 and the driver of the 1, this is a tough time of the race right here because you're trying to make your strategy work. You're trying to make your idea of the race work, and you maybe have an idea of where it's going to go, but you just don't know 100% for sure.
No, you don't know, and we who've got all the data on everyone in the booth right now, we don't know how it's going to go because you've seen a couple cautions so far. 2 cautions tonight. One for a car that spun alone and didn't even get the wall. Then for a car that had pretty heavy contact with the wall. Or I should say one did not draw a caution. The other did. So, we're curious to see, as much as you are watching this race, how this is going to turn out right now as we watch the number 1 chase down the 81. I suspect that number 1 car is okay, Chris, after getting a little bit of damage. I'm looking on the car right now. Maybe a little bit, but it doesn't look like it actually hardly got any damage with that outside wall contact.
Yeah, and it also might be a situation where it's just showing up as contact on our end, but it's not on his end. A lot of times that happens, in iRacing. So, very well could have been just, nothing on his end, and he might have just been letting Randy go since he saw how, quick he was on those fresh tires. Not 100%
All right, battle
for sure.
For the lead between Rye Jones and Patrick Colby. Rye Jones drawn up on the inside of that number 9 car. Colby's not going to be eager to let that 7 car by, but really doesn't have the tires that he is going to be able to probably need to hold off that number 7, who is on fresher tires at this point based on that data we were looking at here a moment ago on who's got what when it comes to laps on tires. But hey, Colby's making a race of it right now.
Yeah, he is. And you know, like I said, as the run goes on, this gets harder and harder. As you see Johnny Rapp trying to get around Colby as well. Johnny Rapp's trying to get back on, to just 1 lap down. If you're Patrick Colby, you might be asking, well, can he come to pit road early here to try to jump Rye Jones on this next stint? He really can't. I think that Colby has got to go long on this stint here so that he can make it on fuel and tires on that last stint.
Yeah, and that last stint, that fuel window is probably going to open up around, if we're saying we can go 167, they're probably going to open up here in about 10 to 15 laps, if I had to guess, for Patrick Colby. So going to hang on as long as he possibly can to be sure that with that final pit stop and that final filling up of fuel, he's got enough juice in the tank to make it to the end. But Rye Jones got a lot of juice in the tank right now, especially after that win at Talladega last week. He is scored now as your leader. Patrick Colby, as we mentioned, in second. Randy Bechtel back to third, but again, a different strategy for the driver of that number 18 car on tires, really hoping for a late race caution to allow him to have a final set of tires to be able to use.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like Rye Jones and Randy Bechtel have options here. I think that maybe Patrick Colby's kind of locked in for when he has to pit, but I think that, Rye Jones, Randy Bechtel, they've got some options here for what they want to do, for what they are possibly going to do on this last stop. So I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out here. Is Randy going to run this thing out or, try to go to about lap 150, which was his original plan? Or does he see what the drivers in front of him do and calls an audible here? So, if Randy feels like, 47 laps is enough time for him to get to the lead, then, hey, that obviously worked out for him. We're coming up here on lap 23 in the run, and he is fast approaching these guys in front of him. We'll actually take a look here at the last speed. This is a battle forecast right here, powered by Pierce Graphics, and he was about a second faster than the driver of the 9 the lap before. He's also about a second faster that time as well. So, Randy Bechtel looking real good right now.
Yeah, Randy really doing a good job here, as you mentioned, with options towards the later stages of this race to see what he can do. And again, I'm just, once again, we find ourselves in a situation where we don't know how this is going to pan out probably till the last 10 laps, and we still might not know at that point, but we're a good ways away from that final 10 laps. Right now we're on lap 124 of a 197. We talked about maybe the pit window opening here in about 10 laps for Patrick Colby. I'm getting there's a notification that Patrick Colby has come on the radio, but I'm not sure what about. That might just been a go ahead, Randy, and thank you, Randy, as he went by. So, but right now Patrick Colby getting passed for second place. Randy Bechtel taking over that number 2 spot on the running order right now. Patrick Colby slips back to third. Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith still about 8 car lengths separate those 2 cars, that blue and yellow car, and then the yellow car of Aaron Smith back in 4th and 5th position right now, as we watch Randy Bechtel continue to draw ever closer to Rye Jones. He's going to have to get by Lee Campbell first, however, before he makes that run for the lead on lap 126 of 197. Randy Bechtel working his way down the inside of that backstretch, getting by that lap car of Lee Campbell. He's about a second and a third off of the back bumper of Rye Jones right now. So, again, keeping our eye on that number 18 car, Chris. He's gotten so close to having some victories recently, but tonight's looking like that strategy that he is using really could take him to victory lane if all the cards fall correctly for the driver of that 18 car tonight.
Yeah, it's looking real good.
Looking pretty good. It's looking good for Rye Jones also. You mentioned both of these guys have options. They are Payday Racing teammates, but they're going to have to battle it out for the lead here. I don't know how much of a battle it's going to be with Randy Bechtel with a little bit fresher tires than the driver of that number 7. He's caught him pretty quickly I'd imagine Ryan Jones is probably going to be okay with letting him go. Right now they're running the same line down into that corner, though, so we'll see how it shakes out. Onto the front stretch here. Ed Bechtel's going to have a run down across the start-finish line. He's going to easily take over the number 1 position down into 1, Chris.
Yep, and looks like his teammate's not going to fight him too hard here. Can see the writing on the wall. You know, if I'm Ryan Jones, though, I'm still feeling like you know, I've made up a lot of ground from that early spin, and I'm feeling really, really good about where I'm sitting in the overall results after that spin earlier. Randy Bechtel, this stint right now is about 30 laps for Randy, and he was able to get to the lead after 30 laps. So if everything played out the exact same way on that last run, he needed about 30 laps to get back up to the front. So we'll go ahead and put our stint links up here on the top 10 runners. That's an important number to think about as we get closer to that final pit stop.
Absolutely, as we look at those stints, how long these drivers have on tires right now. You can see Patrick Colby is really one of the cars on the highest amounts, along with Scott Sobczak and Aaron Smith and Tony Hilbrens, as well as Lee Campbell. If we're looking at that strategy that Patrick Colby we thought was employing right now, Chris, that fuel window is open.
Yeah.
For him to make this final stop. About 65 laps remaining in this race. We determined that was probably on a conservative estimate, the fuel mileage for these cars on one single tank of fuel.
I'm going to run it out, though. I think that he's going to run it out.
If he runs it out, that gives him, what, about 5-6 laps?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Scott Sobczak is currently at lap 65 of his stint right here, so he's pretty deep into his run. Aaron Smith as well. These guys are going to pit here any moment, along with Tony Hilbrens in 6th. Those 3 right there have another set on top of the one they're about to take. So these 3 right here, the 81, the 1, and the 92, I know the 92 is not on the same lap. I think that their hope is obviously in that we get a late race caution.
Absolutely, and in that case, Patrick Colby will not have a remaining set of tires, and will be a duck.
Aaron Smith with some connection issues right there, but he comes back. I know he's having a little bit of trouble in practice earlier. I hope that stays away for him here in these last 60 laps.
Absolutely. Getting a little bit loose down the backstretch, the driver of that number 1 car. We just mentioned these guys are going to be really probably pretty close to that final pit stop, especially that driver, that number 81, Scott Sobczak, with as well as Tony Hilbrens. They're going to be due any lap here, I would imagine, for what, if it goes green, will likely be their final pit stop of the race. So we'll keep an eye on those drivers like Hilbrens and Sobczak that we believe will be coming anytime here. Randy Bechtel continues to lead the race, though, on lap 136. Ryan Jones 2nd. Patrick Colby in 3rd. Scott Sobczak in 4th. Aaron Smith in 5th. Johnny Rapp sitting in 6th place. Lap down. Tony Hilbrens in 7th. Lee Campbell in 8th. And Chris Pierce, after some connection issues, now running in 9th. Coming down to the pits, however, it looks like for a pit stop.
And we see Sobczak and Smith do one more circuit around the track. Oh, Smith has a run. Yeah, he's got a run on the 81 this time.
Really, you can tell that number 1 car is loose, though, into the corner. With front end wiggling, gets loose up off the corner, but he holds on to it. Wow, that was a moment we all held our breath, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw both of these cars coming into pit road here, Chris.
Sobczak coming this time. Good call right there.
Is coming in.
Yeah, right when he got passed by Aaron Smith, come down pit road. He can use this lap right here to go out, bust a fast one off, and try to put a gap on the driver of the 1. So that's a good call by Scott Sobczak.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Aaron Smith in that 1 as he goes by Johnny Rapp, or tries to go by Johnny Rapp, and see if he comes in this lap, or he looks like he might be waiting one more lap. He's going to stay out for at least another lap.
Hey, if you're Aaron Smith, you just got to keep Scott Sobczak close. That's what you're really worried about. You just got to keep him close. You just got to maintain that, striking distance to him.
All right, Chris, can we get that tire stint information on the board right now as we watch Aaron Smith make another lap around? And that's going to cost him a little bit of speed early on in this run, but what it might mean is the difference between slightly fresher tires later on in the run. As we mentioned, Colby.
Is Aaron Smith out of fuel? Oh, no, he's out of gas.
He is out of gas. This is huge championship implications here, Chris. Aaron Smith low on the apron, running down the backstretch. He is out of gas. If we're listening on board, you can hear the car sputtering. Aaron Smith's car is sputtering. He is slowly going down pit road. Question is, coming down to pit road speed, will he be able to make it to his pit stall? Second pit stall.
Oh, no, stay off the wall.
I don't think he's going to be able to make it, yeah.
Oh, no, now that is not good. That's not what he wanted to do. I wonder how he did that. Yeah, that's interesting.
See that number 1 crawling down pit road.
Oh my gosh, this is so slow.
Chris,
it's agonizing.
I've been in this situation. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. He's going to
make it.
A lot of time, though, as he crawls into that second place pit stop with that championship winner pit stall sign. But things are not going to form right now for Aaron Smith as he runs out of gas. And this is going to have a huge implication on how close he stays to Scott Sobczak. He is very well going to go at least a lap down, probably 2 laps down, as he runs out of fuel on the backstretch.
Yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. Right now, Scott Sobczak, who came in a couple laps before Aaron Smith, he's currently running in the 5th position, 2 laps down to our race leader, Randy Bechtel. Looks like Aaron Smith is off the pit lane, and he's about 16 seconds behind Scott Sobczak. And with only 3 laps difference in the tires, that's going to be too much.
Hard sell.
That's going to be too much ground to make up. So, if you're Aaron Smith, honestly, like if you're Aaron Smith or Scott Sobczak to win the race, you do need a caution here. That's not quite worked out as Aaron anticipated, obviously. So, be curious to hear what happened there on the pit stop. If he just had a number that he was trying to reach and just maybe got a little bit too aggressive with the fuel calculation.
Yeah, that I was trying to kind of run through in my head what possible reasons he would have for stretching it the additional lap, especially after Sobczak had come in.
The only thing I can think of is that maybe he tried to pit the lap before and just couldn't make it. If it was because of traffic or he tried to pit and he just missed the pit entry. This pit entry does it comes up on you kind of fast, so that very well could have happened and we just didn't see it.
Oh, while we were watching, Tony Hilbrun's had a manual disconnect for us. Let's see if we can see what happened to the driver of that number 92. See if I can go back and catch it on a replay.
Nothing shows up on my end.
Comes down pit road.
We did have a pit stop from Rye Jones in the chaos that followed that. Rye Jones, Patrick Colby have all made pit stops. Everybody has come to pit road in the laps that fuel situation was occurring. Everybody except for Randy Bechtel, your race leader, and Johnny Rapp, your 3rd place runner. Both of those guys, who I believe they both have one more set of tires remaining. And I believe that they have just hit their 52 come down pit road.
Yeah, we are definitely getting close to those. What we would imagine if it goes green will be their final pit stop. So as you mentioned earlier, both of those guys, because of strategy, will have at least one set left if there is a late race caution, which it appears a very green race at this point, but anything can happen in the Apex Energy Cup Series as we watch Randy Bechtel in that number 18 wind
coming this time
down the backstretch.
Yeah, he looked a little bit low down there. I wonder if that was him trying to signal that he's coming this time. We'll see right here. Nope, not this time. He's going to
Make one
circulate
more
the track.
pass at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, speaking to his confidence. He feels really good. He feels like that maybe he could even go a little bit longer here, a little bit further on this set and, still feel, fairly confident about where he is on his fuel number. Randy might even, he might even run it out here. I don't think he has to, but I think that he probably feels really good about the position that he's in. We saw before it took him 30 laps to get back to the lead. With Rye Jones being on the 6th lap of this stint, we'll go ahead and put those stint numbers back up here on the screen. Maybe he wants to have a greater variation between himself and Rye Jones, between the numbers. So, when the driver of the 7 gets to about double-digit laps on those tires, maybe he'll come to pit road then.
Yeah, I do think there's some wisdom to that. Maybe getting a little bit more space between him and Rye Jones when it comes to that crossover point when Randy Bechtel's tires are going to be a considerable bit faster than the driver of that number 7 car in Rye Jones, really wanting that speed towards the end of the race versus up front right now with about 44 laps to go in the Sim Racing Tech 200 from the Apex Energy Cup Series here at Rockingham Speedway. Randy Bechtel, as we mentioned, is your leader. Rye Jones is in second place. Patrick Colby in third. Patrick on that strategy of pretty much running this thing out of gas to the checkered flag here. Might be in a decent position because Randy Bechtel is yet to pit. Scott Sobczak in the 4th position. Johnny Rapp, as we mentioned, is in the 5th position now. And did Johnny make a pit stop?
Johnny still has one more stop to make. Randy Bechtel's on pit road, our race leader.
Here we go. 18 makes that slow crawl down pit road to the attention of his pit crew, starting in the 6th pit box here. Tires are going to be put on the right side and left side. As you see that right side of the car being jacked up by the what amounts to an imaginary pit crew right now. But Randy Bechtel going to have a good idea of how things are going to stack up when Bechtel comes out of the pit here. Patrick Colby is going to get by Bechtel as Bechtel pulls out in turn number 2. He'll rejoin the race here on the backstretch at Rockingham. Scott Sobczak, you can see in the distance there, but Randy Bechtel is going to come out in front of Scott Sobczak.
Yeah, and Randy has 40 laps to get the job done. He's got 40 laps that he has, to get up there to the lead. And looking at it, I see it's about an 8-second, almost 9-second gap. We'll put up the real-time numbers here on the screen. And yeah, it's about an 8.5-second gap from Bechtel to the leader Jones. If I'm Randy, I feel good about those numbers. He was able to get the lead in 30 laps before. And he's got 40 laps to work with here. I don't remember what the variation was as far as, how old Rye Jones' tires were before. If I'm Randy Bechtel, if a caution doesn't come out, I think I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, we'll be definitely keeping our eye on the battle box as the laps click down here at Rockingham. Scott Sobczak, let's talk just a little bit for Scott Sobczak fans who might be watching. Sobczak's strategy compared to what these other guys out front were running in terms of strategy. Scott Sobczak, that driver out of California, second place in points right now, standing to gain a little bit on Aaron Smith. You can see the tire stint information for these drivers right now. Scott Sobczak is on slightly I thought we had it up there. My apologies. We're looking at the top
we'll put it up there though.
Differential. Scott Sobczak running on slightly older tires than these guys. He got about 22 laps left, and this puts Sobczak in a position where, like you mentioned, to even have a chance to grab the win tonight, you're going to have that late race caution that's going to allow you to come and get those fresh tires and catch up to the likes of Rye Jones, Patrick Colby, and Randy Bechtel running in those 3 spots ahead. Now, Aaron Smith, we mentioned, is also on that tire strategy, but he ran out of gas, which is how Scott Sobczak got the lead that he has on Aaron Smith, which is about 9 seconds right now. Going to pick up a handful of points, Scott Sobczak will, on Aaron Smith tonight if this finishes the way that we are seeing it right now. Johnny Rapp in 6th place. I'm hearing a message from Patrick Colby. I thought he might be getting ready to pit, but no, I think he's just telling Randy Bechtel to go on by as we watch the 2nd place position change hands. Randy Bechtel, Chris, you mentioned, had a good amount of time left to get by Rye Jones for the lead. Just in about 3 or 4 laps, Chris, he's closed the gap by about 2 seconds. Right now, that driver of the 18 car is the fastest car on the track by about 0.6 of a second. With only 34 laps remaining in this race, Chris, Randy Bechtel sitting pretty as we look at the overtake projection with these insights powered by Pierce Graphics. Right now, 16 laps, Chris. That's going to put us about halfway through this final part of the race. What we will say, though, is that this number, as you've mentioned, is likely going to slow down as we now see it. As I say, that picks up to 13 laps. As the laps cook away, though, it's going to get harder and harder for Randy Bechtel to have such a big speed kind of benefit or differential on the leader Rye Jones right now.
Yeah, and if this number maintains and it's it's creeping down right now, I think that at this stage of the run, I think that you're going to see a pretty big difference in lap time, and so the quicker that Randy gets there, obviously the better. Rye Jones is Randy Bechtel's teammate, but Rye doesn't he doesn't usually let people go. He doesn't fight really, really hard. So I'm curious to see how that battle for the lead goes when Randy gets there, and I think he is going to get there, before too long. One thing I want to mention real quick is the driver of the 1, Aaron Smith. We were watching the pit stops, and so we didn't have a chance to really look at the lap speeds earlier. But the driver of the number 1, when he came out of the pits, he was busting off some really, really fast laps, and I think that was a little bit of anger and frustration in those laps when he came out onto the track in anger.
I think you are most certainly right, as we see that 1 car just really, really push it. You can see him getting a little bit loose off the corner here a couple times now. Aaron Smith really working that car hard, trying to get every last ounce of speed out of it that he can. Right now, he's about 8 seconds behind Scott Sobczak. Not saying that he's not going to be able to make up that time, as we've seen him pick up a lot over the last 10 laps, but every point matters. Right now, we know Scott Sobczak's already gotten a bonus point, so that's another couple points that Sobczak's going to gain on Smith in the championship point standings headed into the final race of the week. Right now, you can see that battle forecast. The battle box, as we call it, is down to 6 laps. Overtake projected now in 5 laps. That'd be on lap 175 of 197 that we're predicting Randy Bechtel is going to get by Rye Jones, last week's Talladega winner. But anything could happen in these final 127 laps of the race, Chris. Right now, we're going to take a moment to step away. We'll hold it because that gap is only about 2 seconds. It's going to be really, probably as I'm watching the differential right now, Randy Bechtel is just chewing into that lead.
He's going to be there any minute now.
So we'll watch this. We'll let this play out on the track.
Yeah, he'll be there any minute now, and I think that's I think this will be fairly cut and dry when Randy gets there, and it just shows you 10 laps, 11 laps difference in the tires at most tracks isn't as, it's big on a lot of tracks, but it is huge on this track. It is a big difference. As you can see, Rye Jones just up ahead. Randy Bechtel is got to get the Jaws music going here. He's getting closer and closer.
Dum-dum.
And Rye Jones is driving hard. You can see how loose he was there off the corner, too. He's not just letting him catch him. This is just the difference in tires here. Rye is doing everything he can to try to hold on to this lead.
Yeah, and this is probably going to happen here in the next 2 laps. Randy Bechtel setting up this pass on his Payday Racing teammate, Rye Jones, here on lap 174 of 97. We got about 24 laps left in the Sim Racing Tech 200 here from Rockingham. But the decisive moment of the race is probably less than a lap away. Right now, Randy Bechtel getting the run up off the corner. He is going to be given the inside line, I think, by Rye Jones. Headed into 1, Rye Jones going to give the driver of the number 18, Randy Bechtel, plenty of space, but he's going to garner that run of speed off the corner and maintain the lead, at least for another half a lap. Randy Bechtel looking like he wants to try that move on the inside. Jones is going to take his line away, Chris, and as we said, Jones is not the type of driver to go quietly into the night. He's going to lead one more lap at least here. Randy Bechtel trying to see if he can open up that spot on the bottom of the track to pass Jones, but right now, Jones really taking advantage of the speed that outside line can put together coming out of the corner, but looks like Randy Bechtel's got the position headed down into 3.
Yeah, he just masterfully works that yellow line down there, gets back to the throttle, and completes the pass. That wasn't a teammate letting another one go. That's just the difference in tires right there. And if you're Rye Jones, this is still, you're still sitting in a really good spot. After what happened earlier in the race, battled back all the way up here in second, had a fighting chance for the win here. Can't be too disappointed. Obviously this race isn't over with yet. A caution could really shake things up with, some drivers having some tires in the pits, but Randy has worked the strategy very, very nicely tonight.
Absolutely great strategy calls by Randy Bechtel made earlier through the race, assuming the lead from Rye Jones here on lap 178 of 197. Just about 20 laps left in this race. Patrick Colby, Chris, I want to mention him, give a shout out to the driver of that number 9 car. Really tried a different strategy about the halfway point of this race. We thought he might be sitting pretty, and he was sitting fairly well. Right now running in 3rd position, looking like he's going to be able to hold that position on Scott Sobczak, but I am curious if we can shift back to the driver of that 81 car, Sobczak, and get a look at the battle box and see if there is a forecasted number of laps that's going to take Scott to get by. Right now,
yeah, they're close.
The race insights are saying it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So Patrick Colby doing a real good job maintaining that pace over Scott Sobczak in 4th place.
Yeah, we'll look at it here this time by. So Sobczak was a little bit quicker than Colby, but not a lot quicker. It's going to be hard to make up that much ground if the pace is that close between the two of them. They're on very, very close, tires as well. It was looking earlier like Patrick Colby. I thought that, hey, this might be a race-winning strategy here. We'll have to see how it works out with everybody else. Doesn't look like it's going to be a race-winning strategy for the driver of the 9, but it's definitely a strategy that has worked out nicely for him, and he's looking like he might get a step on the podium here, before this night is done.
Yeah, number 9 car looking good out there, having a good night. We've seen a couple great battles that number 9 car has had. Patrick Colby battling his teammate Tony Hilbrun's earlier in the race for several laps. Been fun to watch him bring that Miller Lite forward around the track tonight. Scott Sobczak. Chris, this is going to have some implications in the championship. Scott, right now, going to pick up at least 2 to 3 points on Aaron Smith, depending on the bonus points. I don't think Scott's going to be able to lead the most laps tonight, but I do believe they both actually led a lap. So I think Scott Sobczak is going to at least draw that points lead down to about 12 or 13 headed into the final race of the season, and that is plenty of space for anything to be able to happen. So that championship is anything but sewn up tonight for Aaron Smith. We'll have to wait till next week at Homestead to crown a champion. But Scott Sobczak having a good run. We know he ran into some issues at Talladega. Might be a little bit even closer of a championship battle had those issues not happened. But Scott having a good run in 4th as we watch Aaron Smith right now running in the 5th position, like we mentioned. Not likely that we're going to see that number 1 car catch the number 17 car with just about 12, 13 laps to go left in this race. Lee Campbell, Chris, having a good run back there in 6th place, keeping his nose clean, staying out of trouble tonight. I had a third place finish at Talladega last week. That Sonic Hedgehog car, man, using all those coins that they saved up earlier in the race to get some good finishes here when they count here in the final 2 to 3 races of the season. I know Lee Campbell's got some fans watching the race, so shout out to them for joining us every week. But Lee Campbell making those viewers proud right now in that number 14 car. So kudos to him. Johnny Rapp taking on a different pit strategy. We've seen him have a different tire strategy almost every week, it seems like, for the past several weeks. But right now, sitting in 7th, just out there for a Sunday, or I guess I should say Tuesday night drive in that 52 Mission Barbecue Dodge. Johnny having a good run. That driver out of New Jersey.
Yeah, he just made the pass for 6th there on Lee Campbell.
Absolutely. So Johnny with just 15 laps to go now, 11 I should say. He's not done racing. He's set his sights now on Aaron Smith. I don't think he's going to be able to get anywhere near him and for that top 5. But Johnny is not a guy to have a quitting attitude, kind of a never give up sort of guy. So good job for Johnny tonight running in 6th place. But right now, Chris, it is all Randy Bechtel, and the gap is stretched out to about 6 seconds on Rye Jones. So we're looking at a situation with about 9 laps left. This is Randy's race to lose in that number 18 car.
Yeah, and if you're Randy Bechtel, you're just, the only thing that you're thinking about here is you've got you got your fingers, you got your toes crossed. Please, no cautions. I was in this situation just last week in the Truck Series with no tires left in the pits. Green flag, very, very long time in that race. And I just knew a caution was going to fly. And if you're Randy Bechtel, you are just hoping and praying that no caution comes out. And, if there isn't one, you're going to see the driver of the number 18 take home a victory tonight.
Yeah, hey, I forgot to congratulate you on your victory in the Apex Energy Truck Series last week at Kansas. You put on a pretty compelling performance there in the final 15, 20 laps of the race. So, hey, you turn out so you're about as good of a race car driver as you are a broadcaster.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't think that you're going to be letting me put up the truck races anymore because a little bit of controversy there, right?
Maybe neither one of us should be putting up races anymore between the mistakes I make. Yeah, so we'll find someone else to do that. But right now, as you mentioned, 7 to go for Randy Bechtel. That number 18 Rainbow Warrior, Jeff Gordon. Usually we're used to seeing Randy in a Kyle Busch themed paint scheme, but mixing it up this week with Jeff Gordon a little bit. I'm curious to talk to him about where the idea for that paint scheme came, if there's any kind of motivation behind that. But unless anything major happens, we'll hear from him in Victory Lane here in just about 5 laps as we watch this battle, however, between Patrick Colby. This is the best battle going on the track for 3rd place between Colby and Sobczak. Things are heating up. This is a point for Scott Sobczak, Chris. And as we know, with 1 race remaining after tonight,
Colby's loose
off the corner. Scott Sobczak is going to look like he's got the upper hand headed down on the inside line. Colby going to pinch him down a little bit, but Scott Sobczak is going to have... Oh, Colby's got to be careful there as he races him back the line. Scott Sobczak looking like he's going to clear the driver of that number 9 car. That is a point right now. Scott Sobczak almost gets the wall there. Bit of a crossover, or a slide job, I should say, on Patrick Colby. Now in the 3rd position for Scott Sobczak. That's another point, Chris. Another point in the championship battle going towards Scott Sobczak.
Yeah, what I saw out of the 81 right there on corner entry, that looked like a lot of rear brake dialed, to the... a lot of brake bias dial to the rear there for Sobczak. He was he was sliding that thing on corner entry, and that might speak to the staying power that he's got on the long run tonight. We've seen him be really, really fast over the course of the run, and didn't think he could catch Colby, but he obviously had. Oh, Patrick Colby, hold on to it, bud. That was
really
close.
Loose. Get onto the wall there a little bit for that 9. He is struggling on those tires right now, Chris. That driver of the number 9, Patrick Colby, having a hard time. But he's only got about 2 laps left, Chris. Randy Bechtel is on his next to last lap. He crosses on the back straightaway here at Rockingham Speedway. The race is his to lose. Rye Jones in 2nd, but he is 10 seconds behind the driver of the number 18 right now. The battle for 3rd looking like it has been settled for the moment. Scott Sobczak in 3rd, Aaron Smith in 5th. Randy Bechtel takes the white flag here at Rockingham Speedway. Jeff Gordon, the driver of that 24 car that this paint scheme is inspired by, is a Rockingham winner, Chris. And I'll remind you, Randy Bechtel won the Daytona opener for the Cup Series, but hasn't been back to victory lane. It's been pretty cloudy earlier on in the season, but right now it's all sunshine and rainbows for the driver of that number 18 Rainbow car. Randy Bechtel is going to be your winner here at Rockingham. Rye Jones is going to bring it to the line here to finish in the second position. Scott Sobczak working his way down the backstretch is going to finish third. And we'll hear from all those drivers here in the post-race interviews here momentarily. So pit strategy, Randy Bechtel masters it today, and he's going to channel that into a win, his second win of the season as he pulls on the front straightaway. Probably going to do some celebratory activities here. And we're going to take a pause for just a moment, and we'll get these drivers into the booth to hear how their races went and how they made their top three finishes happen.
And as Ellis mentioned, this is Randy Bechtel's second win of the season. First one since that season opener at Daytona. It has been a season of consistency for the driver of the number 18, though, and that consistency has put him into that third position in points as we see that the driver of the 18 is going to do a backwards lap around the track.
How about that?
I guess this is for Chase Berry.
Harder than it looks.
Yeah, this is for Chase Berry right here.
All right, so we are going to check in right now with our third place finisher, Scott Sobczak, in that number 81 car. Scott Sobczak, driver of the number 81. This is Ellis and Chris in the Slingshot booth. You got a copy.
Hey, guys, I got you now.
Hey, man. Well, congratulations, first of all. I know it wasn't the night you wanted with a win, but you brought home a top three, and tonight with Aaron Smith having trouble throughout the race, still finishing fifth, that's going to be a couple points you're going to be able to pick up on the driver of that number one car. So let's start with earlier in the race. We saw you have some issues. How difficult was it out there tonight?
Not easy. This is kind of like a Darlington kind of light or short, kind of where you're running the wall on one end of the track and trying to save tires all the way around. And not easy for sure, and it's not easy to pass. And it was fun racing Aaron once where I was in front, once where I was behind, and in both cases it was really hard to pass. So I kind of tried to keep that in mind later in the run, but unfortunately I think it was kind of that early pit stop that just kind of screwed our strategy up and left us towards the back or further back than we wanted to at the end.
Well, there was a moment there where we all held our breaths when you got into the wall on that restart. Did you spin your tires a little bit?
Oh yeah, I spun them a lot. That was way more slick than I thought. Started in second gear, and I probably should have started in fourth the way it spun. But I hit it a couple times, and I was just glad to save that, and not get back into the field. That was my goal there. So at least I kept it.
You did a good job getting her back under control and not bringing out a caution causing any issues. So congratulations on your third place, but also that great save earlier in the race. So we don't know the points differential at this point between Aaron Smith and you, but I think it's going to be around -12 headed into the championship finale at Homestead Miami Speedway next week. Talk to us a little bit about your chances. What do you anticipate? How do you anticipate running there? Is that a track that you like?
I think, Homestead's a track I think everyone likes, so I think we're kind of probably all in the same boat there. And it'll be fun. I mean, I really needed I needed today and last week to gain some on Aaron, and I'm not entirely sure I gained enough, but I'll look at the math here and see what I have to do and see how Homestead goes. But yeah, I do enjoy it. It'll be interesting. I'll have to be fast there to pull something off.
Well, we'll be watching it with a close eye for sure. Congratulations on that top three finish, man. Any quick shout-outs before we let you go for the evening?
Thanks, Alex, if she's watching, Mr. Figs, Remy, they're probably watching, Auntie Alyssa, Olivia, if they're watching as well, and, of course, Pine Mountain Auto Supply. Napa Auto Parts in Big Oak Flat, California. And thanks for you guys broadcasting. So see you guys next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. Have a good evening, Scott Sobzak.
Thank you.
All right, so that was your third place finisher. Now we're going to bring your second place finisher, Rye Jones, into the booth. He's here.
Rye Jones, driver of the number 7. This is the Slingshot booth. Ellis and Chris, you got a copy, bud?
Yeah, man.
Man, with the way this race started, we know that you wanted to win tonight, but I bet you're pretty satisfied with bringing home a second place finish. Talk us through that that early spin. What happened on the backstretch? You made a nice recovery from that.
Yeah, I absolutely did not manage my tires all that first run, and it just immediately started getting ridiculously loose on me, and I just did not get any practice of a long run in, and yeah, it just snapped on me, and I was like, man, when everybody started passing me super fast, I was like, oh no, I did a no. I just burned them up way too fast. And so when I spun out and it brought out the yellow, I guess, lucky me, I didn't mean for that to happen. I tried to save it where we would just keep going. But when the yellow came out, I was like, well, I'm definitely taking tires because mine were already shot. And I really expected more people to take tires there. I was really surprised with everybody that pitted, and I guess a lot of people just took fuel only or something. And I was like, well, if it stays green, we got a pretty good chance to get a decent finish out of it, but nowhere near the best driver here. I think Randy did a really good job saving his tires. Scott's just ungodly. I mean, the dude was on a different strategy, and he still finished third, so that's insane. But got to give credit to those two for knowing how to race, knowing how to manage their tires, and I'll take a second.
Well, man, you were fast all night. We actually thought for a while there that it was looking like it might possibly be your night, and you talked a little bit about being surprised that more people did not make that stop when the caution came out from your spin. Did you think right then and there this is our chance right here to get a great result as long as it goes green to the end?
Yeah, I definitely knew I could have gotten a top 3. I didn't really know how good Patrick could handle his tire wear. I feel like I did a better job than him. Was hoping he could come up with a third just because he was on the same strategies. But like I said, Scott's just so good. But I knew I could get a good finish. And over time, I was getting better and better at my long run. And I had to do something to try and make it interesting. Randy was just going to take off even if I was on the same strategy as him. So I was like, well, let me try and pit 15 laps early and just see what happens. And I held him off for as long as I could, but just it cycled out perfectly, for him to get by me and still finish quite ahead of me. So he would have won regardless on what I would have done there. And props to him. But I did everything I could to get a good finish, and I'm happy with it.
Well, hey, man, you made it interesting. You put on a great show. You made a nice recovery tonight and brought home a great result. Any shout-outs that you want to give before we let you go tonight?
Oh, you guys, as always, thanks for putting on a good show. Sad the season's coming to an end, but had a lot of fun with it and ready for the next one. Got to thank Randy and Johnny for always being here, helping us out. Shout out to Chase again. We always give him a shout out because he's doing the right thing. Trying to manage his life priorities, and we miss him, but we hope to see him soon.
Awesome. Hey, it's a great result tonight. Great finish. That's the driver of the number 7, Rye Jones. Congratulations, bud.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
All right, so you heard from Rye Jones, our second place finisher. Now we're going to bring our winner, Randy Bechtel, into the broadcast booth. Randy Bechtel, driver of the number 18. This is Ellis and Chris in the Slingshot booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, how about it, man? We've been waiting for this moment for several weeks now after a slew of second and third place finishes. You finally made it into victory lane again. Just one race left in the season. Congratulations, first of all, on the great run, the great pit call, and the great pit strategy tonight. Talk us through that first half of the race. With how did the car drive, and how did that influence the strategy that you put in place as we went through this thing?
Well, the car was definitely a bit unpredictable at times. Trying to just pace myself there in the first couple laps, and we had that caution. I'll be honest. When everyone was pitting there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get pit tires with everybody else. And noticed they weren't taking tires. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna get a little bit screwed later. But fortunately, we didn't have a caution. But just running pace, just keeping the car out keep the car from not doing anything crazy. And I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, I would say you did for sure. Were there any? You looked like you kept a steady wheel pretty much most of the night. We saw a lot of drivers have pretty dicey moments where they weren't just loose, but they were losing it coming out of a corner. Did you have any scary moments like that?
There was a few, and I was behind somebody trying to like pass him off the corner, but other than that, maybe a few times off of turn 4 because of the way it's shaped there. It's kind of like old Atlanta down the front stretch there. It just does what it wants to do.
Oh yeah, can upset a car pretty easily. Well, it didn't show tonight. You kept that thing going straight all night long. I was curious about your paint scheme tonight. Normally we're used to seeing you run a Kyle Busch paint scheme, but you were in a alternate paint scheme tonight, that Jeff Gordon Rainbow Warrior scheme. Was that just a random choice, or is there a story behind that?
Just something for Rockingham, Jeff Gordon, Rockingham. The scheme kind of goes with it since that's when they ran these cars here.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's the backstory for it.
it was a good luck charm. It worked for you tonight. So, congratulations on that second win of the season, man. Before we let you go, you got any shout outs you want to give?
I want to thank my teammates Ryan and Johnny. You guys for broadcasting and running the league, and of course all the great sponsors for Slingshot.
Hey man, we appreciate you. Congrats on that second win of the season, and we'll let you go celebrate with everybody else.
Thank you guys.
All right, that was Randy Bechtel, that driver, the number 18, your winner for tonight in the Slingshot Racing League Apex Energy Cup Series Sim Racing Tech 200. You see him sitting there in victory lane. Chris, tonight delivered exactly what we thought it would. It was a battle of attrition to a certain degree, with several drivers falling out over the course of the race, but a lot of drivers hanging on. Whether we're talking about Chris Pierce, Lee Campbell, back there, Johnny Rapp had a solid run. Aaron Smith struggled a little bit tonight, so that's going to have some impact on the championship battle headed into Homestead, which we can talk about here in a moment. But Randy Bechtel, Ryan Jones, Scott Sopzak, great runs tonight. Randy Bechtel, glad to see him get into victory lane once again. Next week, last race of the season. About 12 points, if we had to guess right now, separate first and second place. What do you expect to see at Homestead in these cars?
I expect to see a great show. Homestead, you heard Ryan mention it. Everybody, Scott mentioned it as well. Everybody likes racing at Homestead. It's an awesome track. It's so much fun. It's a driver's track. You're going to see a lot of different lines there as well. And I suspect that you're going to see Scott Sopzak racing Aaron Smith with everything that he's got. He's not going to cut him any breaks. He's not going to cut him any slack. And that's what racing for a championship is all about. And I'm so glad that we're going into this last race. Aaron Smith has got, a little bit of a gap on Scott Sopzak, but it's not a comfortable gap. I'm not comfortable if I'm Aaron Smith heading into this race. So, I'm so excited to see how it plays out next week. We've seen Aaron be fast all year long, though. Scott's going to have to go up there and take it from him. He's going to have to go and take it from the driver of the one. So I'm really excited to see how it plays out next week.
Yeah, so we're going to have a major championship battle on our hands next week, Tuesday at 8:35 Eastern Time. Season finale for the Apex Energy Cup Series. Anything can happen. Truck Series is off tonight. Tomorrow night, Chris, we'll head into our championship finale, where Johnny Rapp's going to be looking to clinch the title in that series. Great week of racing ahead next week. We appreciate everyone sticking with us tonight for a little bit longer of a race, but a great race nonetheless here at Rockingham. Thanks for all the viewers. We thank all of our partners who you've seen running across the bottom of the screen the entire race. Check them out. Help support our partners. Help support the league. Let them know that we sent you, and we'll be looking forward to seeing everyone next week at Homestead, Miami. Till then, everyone have a good night.